This is my first assignment for social and cultural contexts in education. We're focusing on social class and inequality, cultural difference and identity, as well as gender. The first topic I'd like to focus on is social class. I want to look at the impact of social class on the classroom, the large and growing distance between the rich and the poor, as well as Bourdieu's theory of social class. So this is my concept map, which I developed for this assignment. It covers various aspects of some of the reading that we did. I guess in this presentation, I'd like to focus on this area of the different groups of social class according to the dominant Western theorists. And then I also want to look at the effects of this on education and what can be done about it in schools. So we've got the Marx theory, the Weber, and the Bourdieu theories. We also have another arm of this area called life chances. And that's based on the theory that you're not stuck in one class, one social class for life. So we look at Bourdieu's model of social class. He's got social capital, cultural capital, and economic capital. What I'd like to draw on here is some examples, I guess, to give you some examples of how this can be seen in our classrooms. So let's say we have a boy named Giovanni coming from Italy. He's settled over here with his family, and they're from quite a wealthy family. So they've got a lot of money. They had a couple of properties over in Italy. Finance is not an issue for this family. So he comes from quite a rich economic capital background. His cultural capital isn't too bad. He does reasonably well at school. He wouldn't be the most knowledgeable of kids in the class, but he does pretty well. He enjoys reading, and he's at a good standard for his class. He likes music and can play a little bit of piano. So he's got some other skills. So his cultural capital is reasonably rich as well. His social capital, though, is a bit of a different story because he doesn't have many friendship groups. Being new to the school and not having English as a primary language, he finds it quite difficult to engage with other students. So his social capital is on the poor end. So in our classroom, how would we help Giovanni to feel somewhat more accepted into this social class or into this social capital class? What can we do to help Giovanni? So we want to encourage him to dialogue and to speak to other members in his class, and perhaps we could even buddy him up with one or two other people from the class so that they can engage in regular conversation with him. And knowing that he enjoys music and he also enjoys playing soccer, these skills might enable him to enter into a more rich and diverse social capital as he gains more exposure to these areas in the school environment. So this is an example of how social class can be expressed or can be seen using Bourdieu's model of social class as an example. So social class plays a massive impact in our school systems. in various levels, and this is just one simple example. We move into cultural differences. Cultural difference is a huge topic. We know that culture is not a static concept, but it changes. It's a dynamic concept. Education is a way of inducting young people into a given culture. How do we effectively do this here in Australia? Or perhaps should the question be, do we do this effectively here in Australia? And the basis for the white curriculum has been a mix of science and Christianity and capitalism. However, Australia is a very multicultural society. How have we embraced this reality in the classroom? With all the cultural differences that we have from the many various cultural backgrounds that we have in our schools and in our society, how have we embraced this and brought this into our classrooms? For me, this is one of the major issues or social cultural issues in our classrooms, that we impose this white curriculum view onto all of our students rather than asking and bringing the richness of these other cultures into our curriculum and into what we teach in our classrooms. So this is a concept map that I designed for this subject also, and it touches on kind of what we've spoken about just now about culture not being a static reality, and in Australia what our society is like, and how we have so many different languages and different religious beliefs, so many different value systems at play. This stuff in this multicultural society can lead to unfortunate things like racism and bullying. We have seen policies come in about anti-racism. Okay. We've had issues with refugees, and how do we most effectively embrace refugees and meet their need for re-establishing this sense of belonging. In education, as I've said already, one of the most powerful ways of inducing people into any given culture is through education. So how can we incorporate cultural difference and identity into the classroom more effectively? Well, let's have more opportunity to express languages. There are over 200 languages spoken in this country. Let's have more opportunity to do that. Let's have the schools engaging with people from different cultures. And of course, let's have teacher professional development on cultural differences and identity. Two great examples from a current Victorian primary school where my son goes. One of the families in his class are Muslim and or from an Islamic background, and they practice their faith. And recently there was Ramadan, and it was fantastic. They asked the prep teacher, the foundation teacher, if they could bring in biscuits for the celebration, the big festival at the end of Ramadan, and if they could put a letter with it to explain what Ramadan is all about and why they fast and then why they celebrate. This for me was a really incredible cultural barrier breakdown. The teacher was more than happy to have this done in the classroom, and the children loved learning about this because it was something that most of them had no idea about. So this was something done from a parent for the class, and I wish we would see more of this. Another example from the same primary school is that they have a sister school in Shanghai. And so every 2 years, a group of students from Australia go over to Shanghai. And on the other year, a group of students from Shanghai come over to Australia and stay in host families. This is a brilliant way of the students understanding different people from different cultures, different backgrounds, how they learn differently, languages that they speak, and just engaging in a very hands-on way with people from different cultures. This is just a little map I found on the internet about that there are 260 languages spoken in Australia. 4 million people in Australia speak a language other than English. But there's so much cultural diversity in our country, and I wish that it was embraced more. Lastly, we look at gender. So we have sex as a biological fact, male or female. We have gender, a socially constructed category that defines what it means to be a man or a woman within a particular community at a particular time. And we have the idea or the concept of queer theory, which focuses on the mismatches between sex, gender, and desire. The reading for this unit focused a lot on the feminization of the institutions of schools and the issues of lack of male role models in classrooms, the increase in female teachers, particularly in government schools, but also the increase in male leadership in independent and Catholic schools. And this practically then means that there is less male teachers in the classrooms. This is my concept map from the unit on gender. If I had time, I'd go through all of it, but I don't. So I want to focus on this green area here. So the impact of gender in schools and some of the negative effects. And one of those big areas is bullying. I found this incredible picture on the net about bullying, and I think it really speaks volumes about how destructive bullying is and how it can really shatter people to the core. So bullying, as we know, is a deliberate act designed to inflict physical and psychological harm, and it typically is repetitive in nature. And there's always a power imbalance between the victim and the bully. It's been identified that there are large levels of verbal and physical abuse found amongst those who identify as being LGBTI. There was a media release from Beyond Blue in 2015, which I've made available there in that link if you want to have a look, talking about the increase of suicide and self-harm, depression, anxiety in people from the LGBTI community because of the extreme abuse and bullying that has happened, and it's absolutely horrific. What can be done in the classroom? How can we assist some of these gender bias issues and bullying around sexuality and gender from being eradicated from the education system, from the classrooms? Acceptance is vital. We need to show our students that we accept them no matter what. We need to encourage diversity and dynamism in the classroom and encourage dialogue as a class and as individuals between one another. As Rita Pearson says, every kid needs a champion. Find the positives in your students. Always think of how you can raise your students' self-esteem and their education at the same time. Education is a period in your students' lives where they can experience the value and importance of human connection through what you do and say. So let's make